You're watching the only program with weekly fishing reports and real-time outdoor news from the Southwest region. This is Fox Sports Outdoors.
Welcome to this week's show. I've come to Paris to get something to eat. I'm not talking about France and I'm not talking about crepes. I'm talking about Paris, Tennessee, and I'm talking about slab crappie. I'm going to be fishing on my home lake. This is my hometown, and we are going after crappie today. This lake is a ridiculous fishery for bass, crappie, catfish, but there's a little phenomenon that happens here every year where these big crappie get in this man-made structure called stake beds. And this place is just an incredible epicenter for crappie fishing. We're going to go out. I've got one of my very best friends and pastor with me today, Matthew Greer, and we're going to go out. We're going to make as many casts as we can in these stake beds, and we're going to try to show you some big crappie. We're also going to get you some fishing reports from your local region. I'm going to head down to the ramp, and while I do, I'm going to send you back to the FSN studio for your weekend planner.
The Salooner tables are predicting fair game fish activity for both days this weekend. Peak morning hours should begin at 9:49 on Saturday and 10:39 on Sunday, and look for the best evening action to take place a few hours after sunset. Expect the sun to rise at 6:19 and set at 8:34, and the moon will be 22% visible. Hang with us for freshwater and coastal information from around the region. Plus, 2017 Bassmaster Angler of the Year Brandon Polinick joins us for this week's Ask the Pro segment.
Hey guys, we're on Kentucky Lake this morning. It is a bright, beautiful, sunny, post-frontal day, just like every day I get to go fishing. I got my good friend Matt Greer with me, and you know, on Kentucky Lake you usually hear about bass fishing, specifically offshore bass fishing. You even hear about some crappie fishing, but it's usually that deeper offshore stuff. But today we're going to take you and show you something that actually Matt has taught me a ton about, is fishing crappie beds, stake mats. You call them what you want to, but I call them an awesome way to fish. We're gonna probably show you a little bit different way of crappie fishing than they do around most of the country. Sometimes you catch one per bed. I've pulled on beds and caught a dozen. So we're gonna get out here. We're gonna idle back through here. It's pretty shallow fishing for the most part. We're gonna take our time, get across this flat. I'm gonna send you to commercial, and we'll be right back with some crappie action.
Fox Sports Outdoors is brought to you by Lew's. Feel the difference. Gene LaRue and Bobby Garland. We know bass and crappie from heads to tails. Gulf Shores and Orange Beach, Alabama. Plan your fishing vacation and catch the details at orangebeach.com/fishing. And by Glacier Glove. Stay outdoors longer with our gloves, hats, and shades.
What you got?
I got me a crappie.
Attaboy. Bring him on in here. What you got?
I got me a crappie.
Attaboy. Bring him on in here.
A small one.
Just a small one, but where there's small ones, there's usually big ones. Let's talk a little bit about what we're doing here. So we're fishing a piece of plastic on a 16th ounce jig head.
Correct.
Under a float.
Uh-huh.
And we're in, how deep's the water around that bed?
It's about 6 foot.
Okay, so let me explain a little bit. What I'm calling a bed is a bunch of individual wooden stakes that crappie anglers have come out here when the water's down. They've driven them into the bottom like with a fence post driver, and as you'll see throughout the day, they'll take a piece of bamboo or cane or PVC and mark that bed so when the water comes up they can come back to it and find it. These fish get in there and they can, you know, move up and down vertically, up and down those vertical pieces of cover, and when you pull that float over their head,
It goes down.
And that's the deal, man. When it's good, I go to bed at night and all I can see when I close my eyes is that float going underwater. But we're gonna get after them. That's a pretty good start, and we're gonna get spun around and get set back up on that bed.
Hey friends, Cajun Phil here with your Fox Sports Southwest Louisiana Fishing Report. I tell you what, old Captain Kevin was out there this morning catching a big old redfish. He was getting ready to come in and do the report for you. Big old redfish stuck him with his dorsal fin right between his knuckles, swole up, They have to run him to urgent care and get a couple of shots and some meds. He'll be okay though. He doesn't call, said he'll be on the water again tomorrow. I tell you what, as far as the fishing goes, it's been fantastic. Our guides for the last week and a half, they catch lots of redfish, as many as you want. Big ones down by the jetties, smaller ones just about anywhere. As far as speckled trout, the birds are working a little bit, but the trout are small, 13 to 17 inches. Yeah, they're gonna catch an occasional 5 to 6 pounder, but most of them are small right now, but that's good eating size anyway. Bill Lake down in Houma, Louisiana, he's catching both specks and reds offshore. It's been pretty phenomenal. Lots of fish from Venice all the way to Cameron, Louisiana. They're catching big old fish offshore. Whatever you want to do, contact old Cajun Phil or Captain Kevin. We'll put you in touch with the right people. Hey, just give us a call and come on down to the Cajun Paradise Lodge and Shores and enjoy yourself. Till next week, Cajun Phil for Captain Kevin. Been happy fishing. May God bless. And we're going to see you next week. Bye-bye.
There he is. That's a good.
There we go.
That's a good one.
For crappie right there.
Oh yeah.
Now let me tell you a little bit about what just happened. So the lake has come up a bunch this week, and there's been a lot of fish in these beds, and when the lake comes up they seem to scatter. Obviously there's still some in here, but one of the things I want to tell you, if you look at the way a crappie's built, his eyes are on top of his head up here, and they most likely, I'm not saying they can or they won't, odds are they're not going to go down to feed. So what you've got to do when you're easing down through this row of beds, you keep an eye on your depth finder and be constantly adjusting your float to keep your bait above these fish. We're fishing anywhere from about 5 to about 7 feet of water, and I know that 2 foot variance doesn't sound like a lot, but that makes all the difference in the world in getting a bite. So one of the key deals is just really it's a make or break deal for your day. Be real persistent to keep an eye on that depth, keep an eye on the depth of the beds, and keep your float above where you think the crappie is. I'm gonna put that sucker in the live well. He's going to Lake Crisco when we're done.
Got it?
Yeah. That's a good one too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, bring that sucker up there. Got it?
Yeah. That's a good one too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, bring that sucker up there.
Oh. Yeah, don't let him get away. So I'll tell you a little bit of kind of a neat deal. We fished through this row of beds this morning and we caught a couple, and we had a couple more bite. We had a cool night last night, so the bite was a little bit lethargic. We're kind of on up in the day now. The sun's high, water's starting to warm up. So we turn around and come right back through here, and we've caught 2 off this first 2 beds we fished on this row. So don't think because you only got a bite or 2 in a spot that there's no more there. Crappie by nature are school fish. If you get a bite, you catch a fish, a couple bites, a couple fish, whatever, the odds are there's more there. And the odds are there's one more that ain't there no more.
Hey, Steve Higgins and his accomplished young fishing buddy Aiden Keister had a great outing over Memorial Day weekend, catching largemouth, sand bass, and crappie. And they were using typical summertime techniques because we pretty well have already settled into that mode. Hot days, warm nights, soaring water temperatures. Largemouth bass, you can see Aiden caught a nice one here on a deep diving crankbait on the points. Great summertime technique for the largemouth. Now they caught sand bass fishing with their friends the barbers using jigging spoons on those humps. 20 foot of water, again, a deadly technique this time of year. Target those sand bass about 15 to 20 feet deep with that jigging spoon, bounce it right on the bottom. The crappie they caught here with the binoms fishing around the bridges on Skytook Lake, catching them on monkey milk, baby shad, about 15 to 20 feet deep there. And get that bait right up against those pillars. A lot of times our larger reservoirs are pulling water during the week, creating a lot of current through those bridge areas, and then usually they'll shut them down on the weekend. Those fish will stack up around those pillars, get that rod tip right against the pillars, that bait right down beside it. Pay attention to where you get that bite and you can duplicate it over and over. It's hot, but man, the fish are biting. You can catch them, but you can't catch them if you don't go.
Talk to me, Matthew.
Got him.
That one's shaking his head
yeah,
good.
I don't know what that's all. I mean, it's a wild one. Yeah, that's a black crappie.
Oh, it's one of them big black pretty suckers.
yeah.
You know, the white crappie typically get bigger, but the black crappie sure are pretty.
They are. They fight extra hard, seems like.
Yeah, I believe that they are the more aggressive of the two species.
Sure.
Let's catch his big brother.
All right, sounds good. I'm gonna throw this one in the box.
That's right. Just for the record, a legal fish on Kentucky Lake is a 10-inch fish, and it's a 20 fish per man limit. It's been 30 up until the last couple years, and just for the better management to let the fish grow and mature better, they lowered the limit to 20. And you catch 20 of them big black crappie like that, you've had a pretty good day. You know, one of the most unique things about fishing this way is, for the most part, anytime somebody is fishing with a float, they're just allowing the float to hold their bait up off the bottom. You're actually using the float. What you see the float do is the action you're imparting on the bait. If you pull the float, you're dragging the bait behind you, and it actually will settle back down to fall underneath the float. When you pop the float, it makes the bait pop. So basically, you're getting a pretty visual representation of what the bait's doing below the float. And obviously the float, a fancy term for it would be a strike indicator. The fish is biting the bait and it pulls the float down. It's a pretty unique way. Most of the time when people use floats, they're holding live bait or something up off the bottom. This is one of the few times in my life I've ever actually used a float to employ an artificial bait.
Fox Sports Outdoors is brought to you by Motor Guide's new wireless and easy-to-use XI3. XI batteries, powering the world forward. Waypoint Marine, the Gulf Coast's leading saltwater boating specialist. And Strike King, designed by the pros, fished by you.
Look at the size of that sucker right there.
Oh my gosh. So that is a Kentucky Lake giant.
That is a big crappie.
Got it?
Yeah.
There they are. Is that a good one?
I can't, he feels like a good one. He's making my drag slip.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's a real good one.
And yeah, one of them big old white crappies right there.
I'm gonna keep fishing, try to get another one.
Yeah, you ought to. You know, tell you a little bit about what's going on here. I may have talked about it a minute ago, but I'm gonna have to get pliers. That sucker ate that one so good. That's a good crappie too. The sun's got high, and a lot of times what we're fishing, this cover with these stakes, and it's not a real good representation because all you can see now is the marker stake, but you just have to bear with me and I'll try to explain it. Underneath the water is a bunch of individual posts driven into the bottom, and it's a little crappie habitat, so to speak. And bass get in them, catfish get in them, what have you, but they're designed for these crappie. And what happens is, as the sun gets higher, a lot of times these fish will get tighter to cover. They'll use that shade provided, that hideout to ambush. And all I'm doing with the piece of plastic on a jig head is mimicking a little minnow or a little bait fish that gets in there, and they slip out of that cover and eat it, and then they slip into the live well and I eat it. So it's kind of like the full service food chain deal. I'm gonna send you to your local fishing report. I'm gonna put this big dude in the live well and see if I can't get a leg up on my man Matthew here.
Hi folks, this week's Lone Star Lakes is once again brought to you by Fiberworks Marine Collision. When you want the work done right, you want it done fast, Fiberworks Marine Collision. Now this week we're going to take the bass fishermen out to Squaw Creek Reservoir near Glen Rose. Yes, Squaw Creek is a power plant and the water's pretty hot right now, but so is the bass fishing. Start your day on the upper end of the lake away from the power plant discharge and fish the timber and vegetation early with your top waters, then transition to your middle zone baits like your Cincos and watermelon red with a dip of chartreuse and your spinner baits. And finally, use your drop shots, Carolina rigs, and deep diving crankbaits out on the outside edges of the timber over the timbered points. You'll be fishing about 15 feet deep. Now for something completely different, the Guadalupe River. Normally you might talk about trout on the Guadalupe, but we're going to talk about big stripers that are eating trout. Now this is occurring below the canyon dam, and fly fishermen are using 8-inch deceiver flies but you might want to use either large rooster tails in rainbow trout colors or use your Rapala Husky jerks and other crankbaits in those same rainbow trout colors.
Hi, I'm Captain Joey Farrer with your South Texas Regional Report. This week, the big news is summer is on. All the kids are out for summer, head straight for the beach. Here in South Texas, we've got two beautiful piers. Port Aransas, it's Horns Caldwell Pier, and over on North Padre, it's Bob Hall. Out on the end, they're catching kingfish, ling, Spanish mackerel on silver spoons in that green water, and in the fourth, third, second, and right up on the beach, it's drum, sand trout, whiting, flounder, even those little black tip and bonnet nose sharks that the kids love. In the bays, we're still hammering limits every trip with live croaker. In Laguna Madre for the next month and a half, it's going to be unbelievable trout fishing. Down south in Baffin, we're catching reds against the shorelines and spoil islands in about 2 to 3 foot of water, especially about 10 o'clock in the morning when the winds pick up and the boats move out. Look for live croaker to work well as gold spoons and those 5.5 DOA jerk shads on a light jig head, dancing it across those sand pockets and letting it settle. Follow all of our hookups on Facebook at Captain Joey Farrer's Backwater Fishing.
There you go.
Oh, got a big one. I mean a big one.
Oh my gosh, man, that is a giant.
I can't flip him. I can't boat flip this one. I can't boat flip this one.
Look at the size of that sucker right there.
Oh my gosh. So that is a Kentucky Lake giant.
That is a big, big crappie. Good job, dude. Daggum, that's awesome. Let me tell you a little bit about what we did. We changed locations. We've been fishing those beds in that one area this morning, and we ran up the lake a little bit and pulled in here. And this was our first bed, first cast, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. This is a 15-inch crappie.
That's right.
I mean, this is a full 2-pounder.
Yeah,
I mean, this is the real deal.
You hear people talk all the time about a 2-pound crappie. That's a legit 2-pound crappie. Hold it out so you can, I mean, now you can see what a 2-pounder looks like.
That mouth on that sucker right there.
So, give me a little insight. What's different about in here? This was your spot.
It's a little bit shallower. You got an old road bed here, so this will warm up a little quicker. Got a lot of stake mats up against the road bed, and then some out just a little bit deeper. So as they come in from these deeper ditches and start to filter in here, I think they start on these outside beds and then they stage up and then they move in. So we just stopped on one of the outside beds. Was about 6 foot of water, and I mean, it didn't sit in there about 5 seconds.
Dude, awesome. Good job.
Killed it. And that's gonna be the prettiest thing you ever seen coming out of that grease.
No doubt.
You can always watch our latest episode on the front page of our website at foxsportsoutdoors.com. Catch up on past episodes by clicking the archive button and learn about fishing techniques and new gear at our how-to page. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter for new fishing videos every day. Simply search for Fox Sports Outdoors and click the like button on Facebook and follow button on Twitter. And watch a new episode every week on any device by downloading the free Waypoint TV app on your phone, tablet, computer, or smart TV. Fox Sports Outdoors is brought to you by Nitro Performance Fishing Boats. Champions aren't born, they're made. Mercury Outboards, go boldly. And Lowrance and the new Hook 2, the world's easiest fish finder.
Welcome back, everyone. It's time for the Ask the Pro segment, where viewers get expert answers from fishing's premier competitors. This week's question comes from Doug, who asks, I'm having trouble getting my boat on plane. Any advice? For the answer, we checked with 2017 Bassmaster Angler of the Year, Brandon Polinick.
If you're having trouble getting your boat on plane, and for those of you that don't know what that means maybe, it means when you throttle down and your boat starts to come up and then it flattens out, that's getting on plane. And that can have to do with weight distribution. If you're having trouble with that, you can add weight toward the front of your boat so that it helps bring that down. Or a lot of times it has to do with the prop on your boat. If you've dinged up your prop, ran it across the sandbar a little too shallow, things like that can affect it. Or you may need to downsize your prop size or go to a 4-bladed prop. Those things will help get you on plane a little quicker.
Thanks, Brandon. If you have something to ask one of our fishing superstars, Visit the Fox Sports Outdoors homepage online and follow the Ask the Pro link to submit your question. Now it's time to see who wins our Big Catch of the Week contest.
It's time for this week's Big Catch of the Week contest. This week's winner is Andrew Whalen from Houston, Texas, with a 22-inch flounder caught in the East Bay in Galveston, Texas. To enter the contest, go to foxsportsoutdoors.com, click on Big Catch of the Week box on the right side of the homepage, and follow the instructions to send in your big fish photo. You could have your big fish shown here on our show. Here's the gear you need to do what you saw us do today out on Kentucky Lake, catching these big crappie out of stake beds. Number one, first and foremost, most important, is the rod and reel. This is the one variable you cannot get around. You have to have a rod that will allow you to make pinpoint accurate casts around those stakes, around those markers. You've got to have enough backbone then to horse those big 2-pound crappie out of those standing stake beds. So for me, it's none other than the Wally Marshall Pro Series by Lew's. I prefer the 7-foot medium light with a moderate action. This is the perfect rod for this technique, and I pair it with a 75 series Wally Marshall reel. The next most important thing to me is being efficient and being able to get to the, you're gonna hang up in those beds, you're gonna break off with crappie, they're goofy kind of sometimes, you're gonna wanna change colors. And that's why I need the Money Bag by Bass Mafia. I can put on my baits, my heads, my floats, everything I need for a day of stake bed fishing in one bag. Get to it all, and it is the toughest bag on the planet. That's the gear you need. Hey guys, I want to take a minute and talk to you about stuff that matters. You know, every time I turn on the news, every time I read something on Facebook, every time I hear the latest story from somebody of what happened to them, I'm reminded how just incredibly self-centered and selfish our world has gotten. Not as a whole. There's obviously a ton of great people in this world, but here's what I want to challenge you to do. You know, out here on the lake, you hear about it all the time, people pulling in front of somebody on a spot. In traffic, somebody cuts somebody off, somebody jumps in front of somebody at the line at the grocery store. My challenge to you is to treat other people the way you want to be treated. It's a challenge to myself as well, but here's what I know. If we each take this as a personal initiative, treat others as good or better than you would want them to treat you, I bet we'll see the news change, the headlines change, and our country change, and that's stuff that matters. Anytime I'm fishing out of Paris Landing, I love to stay at Fishtail Lodge. The Paris Landing Marina is right here close. There's several dining options. You have the state park, you have downtown Paris. The hospitality is impossible to beat. Check this out if you're looking for a place to come and have a great time with your family. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Barry will be back with you next week. I hope that you feel confident you could come to Kentucky Lake and catch these big slab crappie in the stake beds. Until next week, God bless.